The most recent The Clone Wars episode, Old Friends Not Forgotten, did something to me. It broke what some might call a delusion I had concerning the Star Wars universe. Some of you may not know this, but there are two different shows called Clone Wars and The Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is the one most people are familiar with, that just came back to conclude with a 7th season. Clone Wars was a series of shorts that led up to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, directed by animation veteran and action animation extraordinaire Genndy Tartakovsky. Now, that show has been considered as non-canon ever since the Disney buyout of the franchise, but I have to admit it's probably because the show is so great that I was holding out hope that maybe it can still fit in there. I figured that we can just consider the majority of the story as taking place after Ahsoka left the Order.
Sharpton for president, y'all. I'm outie.
But Old Friends Not Forgotten really took a dump on that when they got the call that Coruscant was under attack.
Coruscant is under siege, and General Grievous has abducted the Supreme Chancellor.
Grievous. Battle stations. All crews to their fighters. Prepare to jump into hyperspace.
Grievous has attacked the capital.
What about the Chancellor?
Shock T has been sent to protect him, but Master Windu has lost contact with her.
It was awesome seeing that ending of Coruscant under attack, and then going to the movie theater and seeing that ending as an opener on the big screen. Talk about transmedia storytelling. I almost wish they had played that final episode as part of the previews before opening the movie for all to see. Now, Obi-Wan says that Shakti was dispatched to secure Palpatine, and that she lost contact with Mace Windu.
We have to leave!
So that awesome run from Grievous and his Magna Guards could still be able to squeeze in there. Let's not forget Shakti laying down the law against the Magna Guards. Besides, they still need a way to explain Grievous's cough in Episode 3. They still need Mace Windu using Force Crush on his chest. That's when it hit me. They really should have invited Genndy Tartakovsky to direct an episode. I mean, why not? This is the same dude behind Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, and Samurai Jack. Whenever there was an action scene happening in any of these shows, you can tell that this man knew what he was doing. Now, as I was working on this, I stumbled on an article from Den of Geeks that, by the headline, was talking about the same thing. Tartakovsky's Star Wars Clone Wars hasn't been canon since Disney rebooted the continuity, but in its big finale, the Clone Wars has pointedly overwritten its early aughts predecessor. Or has it? Or has it? Is there some sort of glimmer of hope? Maybe they're talking about the same thing I was. Mace Windu crushes Grievous. Maybe some of it can still apply, you know? Let's find out. Link to the article in the description. In 2008, the Clone Wars theatrical movie that set up the series, Anakin is already a Jedi Knight, and famously teams up with Ahsoka Tano, who becomes his apprentice. Anakin is no longer rocking his Padawan braid from Attack of the Clones, and by the first 3 episodes of the Clone Wars Season 1, the Jedi are aware of General Grievous, even if it is a little iffy if they knew about him before. The narrator does. The point is, you can kinda tell yourself that many of the events in Tartakovsky's Clone Wars all happened before the Clone Wars began. Okay, I gotcha. Headcanon wise, you could say that most of the first half of Clone Wars is pre-Ahsoka, and most of the second half is post-Ahsoka, or at least in between her leaving and not returning for the Siege of Mandalore. In fact, in Clone Wars Chapter 21, Anakin becomes a Jedi Knight, and has his little braid chopped off by Yoda's lightsaber in a pretty slick ceremony. Chapter 22 begins with a montage of Anakin being amazing during the Clone Wars, and, in a sense, the entirety of the second animated series could take place during that montage. The point is that it's clear that chapters 1 to 21 of Tartakovsky's Clone Wars happen roughly in 22 BBY, while the Clone Wars covers the events right up until 19 BBY. What's the takeaway? You could still make Clone Wars fit into your own headcanon up until chapter 22, which is interesting since there are only 25 chapters in total. Alrighty then, I'm picking up what they're putting down, and I'll take it. But one thing that you're pretty much obligated to bring up when talking about Clone Wars, how awesome was General Grievous in that show?
Run, Jedi, run. You have only prolonged the inevitable.
Much like the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders, he dared to show that the Jedi and their Force powers are not all powerful. With enough will and motivation, even multiple Jedi Masters can fall before you.
They are tricky little pests.
Shoot him down! Shoot him down!
Sniping and using cover are always advantageous.
Anyway, that's all I had to say about that. Twitter and Discord, description box. If you've never seen the original Clone Wars, do yourself a favor. It still holds up, and it probably always will.